Welcome. I'm Pam Laricchia from livingjoyfully.ca, and today I'm here with Natasha Allan-Zaky. Hi, Natasha.
Hello.
Hello. I connected with Natasha online a couple of years ago, at least now. Time goes quickly. And have really enjoyed reading her blog and seeing pictures of their unschooling lives in action. And right now, she's actually doing a 365 Days of Gratitude project. And I really look forward to seeing her posts as they go through my feed. I love that. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Natasha. And to get us started, can you share with us a bit about you and your family?
Yes. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me talk with you today. I'm so honored. We are a family of four. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and Tarek has a bar in Toronto that he travels to every week to work at, and it's a show venue, so got live bands and stuff there. So he's he goes back and forth a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then there's Lemon, who's 6, and Ollie, who is 2. And we also have many animals in our life that round out the family.
Oh, that's awesome. They really are part of the family, aren't they?
Oh, they are. They are. They bring a lot of joy. And we're very fortunate. We moved here to Eastern Ontario, east of Kingston. We moved here 3 years ago from Toronto. We were right in the middle of the city. We needed to get out. Now we're on 3 acres of beautiful open land, and now we're just surrounding ourselves with more and more animals. And Tarek's like, okay.
That's it.
we did it. It's
good. That's interesting, because we too, I think we'd been unschooling for a year or two when we moved out of the suburbs of Toronto as well. Just looking for more space to be. And yes, the animals, like we had our first dog a week after we got here, because we had spent about a year looking for property and stuff. So we had lots of time to plan all that and to know what we were going to do. And we dove right in when we got here.
Us too.
Yeah. So what did your family's move to unschooling look like? How did you discover it and decide to go that route?
Well, I think I first heard of unschooling when Lemon was probably about a year old. And at that time, I didn't know it, but I was practicing attachment parenting. And I heard that term and I said, oh, that's me. And that was really great reassurance, because there's so much pushback against that connection, right? Mm-hmm. And the support that I did have in my life, well-intentioned, was, put her down, don't hold her as much, don't breastfeed her to sleep, don't a fear of something that will happen in the future. And when I learned about attachment parenting, it was a sigh of relief. It was like, okay, this is all good. I'm doing what's best. And then I learned about unschooling, and I had intended to homeschool. That was my intention. And I spoke to Tarek about that, and it didn't make sense to put her in daycare. It didn't make sense to me to put her with other people, and then I would go off and do something else, wanting to be with her. So we, skipped that stuff. We did try, what was it? Montessori, not a Montessori, but what's the other one? Not Montessori.
Waldorf?
Anyway, Waldorf. That's it. We tried a Waldorf thing, and it was once a week, and we got to go with her, and it was sweet and everything, and it was lovely, but there was already that indication of the structure of, you have to do this now, you have to do that now, and we were talking about maybe going on with that, and then I realized that it's just another form of the same thing. It's you know, it's called something else, but it's the same structure. It's the same discipline. It's the same making them do stuff when they're not ready to do it, or changing things when they're not ready to change. And so when I learned about unschooling, it just made total sense, and it made sense to me based on my experience after school, the way that I pursued my career after school and pursued my interest after school. It was basically unschooling. And I was learning all this stuff because I was interested in learning. I needed to learn it to start my acting career or my dog walking company. I needed to learn all this stuff because I was interested, and it just, I knew that that's what unschooling would be for them too. So that it was just a no-brainer to continue on that path for them.
For them. Yeah, you know what? That's something that I really love, that we can understand the value of unschooling no matter from any of our experiences, right? You know, I did well in school, I did well at university, you know, got that degree, but with that understanding, I could see how much of my learning was outside of the institution, you know, when I actually started working, and how, you know, the stuff I really enjoyed doing and the jobs I actually followed, like wanted to take and applied for, really had little to do with my actual degree. And it was like, oh, but I want to do this, and I'd be learning like crazy, you know, for that kind of job. And
Yeah.
I love that whether you had a bad school experience or a good school experience, either way, you can still realize how people actually learn, right? And to see the value of that unschooling experience. It's so fun to hear other people's, you know, perspective on how they got to that point, and the finding attachment parenting later, and realizing, oh, there are people in the world who do this. Because the feedback is quite negative. You know, you're being a weak parent, and you know, you're spoiling them and all that kind of, you know, you can just feel the looks.
Yes, and it's all about what might happen later. And it's a distorted idea that if you give them too much now, they won't be independent later. It's like, well, she's 6 months old now, and she needs her mom now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be her mom fully now, and then continue to do that. And then just, you know, when I know that she needs me a little bit less, and she's not, you know, she doesn't need me to hold her all the time, then yes, she can go off and do her own thing for a few minutes or an hour, whatever it may be. But to be told as parents, you know, you can't do that because she'll never learn how to sleep on her own. It's like, well, you're not thinking this through.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. It ended up being, you know, no, I'm really focused on the moment. That was what really the decision is, right? I'm not going to worry about those fears. This is what feels really right in this moment for both of us. And just innately understanding that they're an individual. You know what I mean? Which ties into your, you know, the uncomfortableness you felt with more structure going on. Because even if the activities are more enjoyable, more child focused, when you start putting that structure, you're losing the individuality of that child, aren't you?
Yeah. And you could see that some kids responded a little bit better to it, and then some kids the complete opposite. But it was very interesting.
Meshes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, did I interrupt you there? Speaking of wonderful, wonderful children, I love hearing what unschooling kids are getting up to. So I was hoping you'd share maybe a little bit about what your kids are interested in right now and how you're helping them explore it.
Well, right now, Lemon is full on into dance, music, piano, storytelling, big time storytelling. She loves, she's got a huge assortment of Littlest Pet Shops. It's been her thing for about a year now. And she will create stories. But what's really cool is that she'll watch YouTube videos of other kids doing stories, and then she'll do her interpretation of that story. And it's really neat. And she'll set up this huge display and backdrop. And so yes, storytelling. And she's very interested in anything, really a lot of creative stuff, not so much yeah, just lots of dancing and music and playing and stories. And Ollie is into trucks and tractors and planes and dinosaurs and all that fun stuff. And what I've noticed with helping them explore things is that primarily for Lemon, she needs my help still to find things like YouTube videos of, you know, piano interpretation of songs that she wants to find. I'll sit with her for hours and we'll go through different videos and we'll find, and it's kind of like going into this rabbit hole of, you know, she wants to find this thing, but then we end up going in a totally new direction. Then she discovers something new that she loves, and then that gets incorporated into it as well. So there's lots of dancing that's happening in the house as a family. There's lots of watching Lord of the Dance and River Dance, because that's where she's at right now. So we watch a lot of that and we reenact it a lot. and Oliver is Michael Flatley, and Lemon's doing a dance where she's, you know, she watches it over and over and she's picked up all the choreography. And so we'll put the song on and she'll do it. She'll do the whole dance. And then Ollie, who is 2 and is usually naked, will come in and do the Michael Flatley part. And so it's so much fun. It's so much fun. But it's pretty much, you know, just us as a family exploring the music and the dance and all that. And Tarek is he's a musician as well. So he plays with them and with Lemon, and he'll learn parts of a song and she'll learn parts of the song, and then they'll sit and they'll play together. And so it's that kind of atmosphere.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And the piece that stood out for me too, like when you mentioned following the rabbit holes, right?
Yeah.
As you're diving into things, I think that's a really valuable piece. I think that kind of is part of deschooling, in that when our kids are interested in something, like when they start, it can be so easy to get fixated on that, right? And to keep trying to pull their attention. Oh, because, you know, they need to pay attention and follow through. Follow through is like a big thing, right? And I think at first it can be really hard to like just skip over here and skip over here and skip over here, because well, what are we accomplishing if we're going all over the place? But it's amazing in there, isn't it? All the funky places and the connections that you couldn't have imagined when you guys first pulled up that first video, right? Isn't that cool?
My goodness. Well, you know, it's incredible because you know, just yesterday we were watching, I saw something come up on my feed of a woman in, I think it's Sweden, where she does this call to cows that are out in the fields and out in the mountains.
Yeah.
And she sings to them. I think it's called culling. And she sings to them. And it's this old tradition of singing to the cattle to bring them home at the end of the day, because they're up on the mountains and they sing this beautiful song and it's haunting, and the cows come home. And I showed it to Lemon, and she was taken by this. And then we ended up finding the woman who was singing, we found her vlog. And then Lemon ended up watching this vlog of this woman, this beautiful young lady in Sweden who's an artist, and she just got drawn into this woman's world. And who knows what comes of that too, right? Like, who knows? Maybe she'll start to paint. Well, she is painting a lot lately, but you know what I mean? Like, it just, you never know.
That's why I found it was so valuable. Like, back when my kids were younger, when we began unschooling, you know, there wasn't social media, but that was what we did in the unschooling email lists, right? Families would share, like moms would share the funky thing they came across. Like there was still the internet. So we'd be sharing like websites or, that kind of stuff. And so it was so valuable for me to also be looking out into the world and finding those little things that, I think
Yeah.
child A would find that really interesting, and having that, not trying to take them away from what they're doing and refocus them on something else, but having all these other possibilities that can just kind of connect into the moments, like, oh hey, or if there's a lull, you've got a few new things that you
Yeah.
can bring in. So being connected to the world basically, and just picking up little things here and there. Some things will pass us right by because they're not interesting to us and we don't think our kids would be interested in them. But
Yeah.
finding all those little pieces it's so fun, right? It's fun for us to do it, and it's fun to have it to share.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Absolutely.
uh, oh my gosh, here we go. That leads us so nicely to the next question, doesn't it? As I look down at my sheet. Because I think one of the deschooling challenges that challenges that many of us faced is the shift to embracing fun, right? And not just for the kids, for us too. Because for so long we've absorbed that message that adults are serious and adult things need to be serious, and fun is really just for kids. But that's a really important shift, isn't it? That shift to fun. So I was hoping you could share your experience around that.
Well, it's funny. Uh, I I found myself very serious in the last few years,
Yeah.
and uh, I think that it was in part by some very heavy emotional stuff that happened around the time that Lemon was born. My
Mm-hmm.
mother passed away, and it was very, and my father a couple of years later passed away, and there was a lot of stuff that was happening around all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was heavy, and I became very serious. But I think at some point there was a shift where I realized I need to find my humor again, because I used to be really fun and funny, and I used to have fun. So I think that it was a conscious reminder
Mm-hmm.
of, there's something missing in the way that I'm approaching things. And I remember helping Lemon, I think she was 4, play with some Lego sets. And she was into Lego Friends at the time, and I was getting all these Lego Friends sets, and we would sit down, we would build them, and I would sit down with the instructions and, okay, let's do this. And she'd whip out all the bags, and I started to get like a panic attack, like, bag 1.
I've
This
had that
bag,
same Lego panic attack.
right? Just the first bag. And she'd want to open them all, and she'd want to dump them all out. And I'm like, but how are you going to find the pieces for bag 9? And then I realized at some point through our building, we would build something, then she would want to play with it. And it wasn't a complete set yet. And I was like, but we have to complete the set. And then I realized she's just having fun. Like, just have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Just play. And it was a good click where it was, the serious of it all, and having to do this the way it's set out is not as important as just having fun. And I think that was a big shift. And also my thinking as the adult, when I would speak to my kids, if I was, or even speaking to Tarek, if I was expressing myself and it was a humorous thing, or maybe it was just like a light thing, but I was taking myself very seriously, and I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to be respected, and I dig my heels in. And then at some point I thought, if I don't laugh at myself, if I don't laugh at this and just let it all go, it's just going to be a life of wanting to be taken seriously and wanting to be right rather than being kind and being fun. And I think I want to go that direction now, because I don't like the feeling I get when I'm like, I'm an adult. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be the one in control, and all that stuff. So I think that there's been little shifts in the road along the way that have kind of helped me get over to the side of more fun.
Hmm.
And I think that I continue to work on that, where it's, I have to look at the situation and say, is this really that serious? Is this really that important now? In this moment, what's more important? Enjoying my kids, or whatever else is on the menu.
Yeah.
So I think the focus is always coming back to the moment, looking at them and connecting with them and saying, this is just have fun, just dance, sing, you know
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right. And I think that that's like, at some point, that's, I guess it's the schooling system that we grew up in, and I guess it's the system that we're used to. But that playfulness, and being vulnerable and being playful and being vulnerable and maybe making a mistake. That's coming back. That's being like, okay, let's just let it all hang out. Let's just have fun.
It's amazing how being playful feels so vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's almost like a weakness. People see it as a weakness, like you're
Yeah.
not an adult if you're not serious and sitting over with the adults and talking about serious stuff. And I
Hmm.
remember, I think it was something that Sandra Dodd had written about bringing more joy into your life, and I think she was talking about politics. And at that time I was reading a lot of politics, and I was reading the heavy subjects,
Hmm.
and it would come into my world with my kids, and the sadness or the fear or whatever was coming from all the stuff I was reading about that was happening in the world. It would filter in my life with my kids, and I remember consciously saying, you know what, for now I'm just going to let all that stuff go to the side, so that I can just be playful and joyful. Because if I hold on to all that heavy stuff that I really have no control over right now,
Hmm.
I'm not doing my kids any favor by holding that in my heart. I need to have a free, open heart. And I think that we need more of that, in general, you know,
Yeah.
and that was a conscious choice too. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
part of, you mentioned that earlier too, the parent that you want to be, right?
Yeah.
And seeing what's getting in the way for ourselves of us being the kind of parent that we want to be in the moment. So
Yeah.
it's great recognizing all those little pieces and clearing them out that gives you the better chance to make that choice in each moment, right?
Yeah. And not holding on to the old idea or the old story of who we were before we had kids.
Yeah.
it, that identity, it shifts with becoming a parent, and how can I get closer, what choices can I make that bring me closer to being that joyful parent that I want to be.
Yeah, yeah. And that was something I found too. I really learned how to do it again, or the value of it, by watching my kids,
Yeah.
right? Seeing them in action, seeing them so joyful and having fun, and seeing, all the learning that was wrapped up in there, all the that there wasn't anything wrong with it, that having fun wasn't childish. It was
Yeah.
it was being human, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That
Yes.
was
Yes. Yes.
all the yeses. It's so true, right?
And I get it. We have bills, we have mortgages, we have things to fix, we have all this heavy stuff. But it doesn't mean that we need to lose out on the chance to be kids with our kids, like being kids again,
Hmm.
finding that joy in being kids again with our children and playing. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's not about ignoring those other things to have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's and these things,
Yes.
and I can
Yes.
have fun in this moment, because like you said, worrying about this in this moment isn't, I have no control over it. This is not a moment where I can do something to change that.
Yes.
And I can sit here and worry about it and lose this moment, or
That's
I
right.
can do this, and right, do this as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Awesome. I saw a video that you posted on your Facebook page about a month ago And it was about your daughter figuring out how to play a song she loves on the piano. You mentioned that earlier, figuring out songs that she's interested in learning, right? So I thought it would be cool to hear the story of how her piano journey has kind of unfolded so far.
Well, that was a rabbit hole too. That was a really cool one.
Yeah.
And he, she did express interest in learning piano, and she's always tinkered because Tarek plays the piano, so
Mhm.
she would always sit next to him and tinker and play. And but last year, well, probably the spring of this year, she said, "I want to learn." And so we looked around. We did look last year for a teacher in the. It was an odd experience because we went to meet this teacher, and she clearly had her structure of how she taught, and there were the stickers and if you're a good girl, and Lemon's whole demeanor in this one meeting changed. It
Wow.
was the strangest thing I've ever seen, and I could tell how uncomfortable she was
Mhm.
and how much she wanted to please this person. uh, and I didn't, I thought, how is she going to learn in this environment if this is, she's not herself.
Mhm.
um, I don't know if she would have become more comfortable with this person, but she didn't want to go back, so we didn't tell her to go back. And so this year we went and we found somebody she was comfortable with, and she did go for probably six or so classes, and the teacher loved her and raved about her and said, all these wonderful things about her and how she's, so talented, and somebody her age is so, she's got it, her posture, and saying all these wonderful things. But Lemon again didn't want to be there, and you could tell that she was like, yes,
Yeah.
I've got this scale, I've got it, and so we again said, if you don't want to go back, that's fine. We'll just take a step back. That's fine. So we have all these books from her class on the piano, and I was curious, is she gonna go back to piano, or is that it? Is it ruined? So she didn't actually touch the piano for a while,
Mhm.
and then she was dancing more and more and doing gymnastics and doing physical stuff, and she's always been a dancer. So we it's so funny. We love the show Spirit, and we all, Lemon and Ollie and I, love watching it together. And then I found out that Spirit is in a horse game called Star Stable. So I
Oh.
found that for Lemon, and she and I started playing that together, and we were having a blast. And one of the parts of that game has a Celtic song that plays in it when you enter that area,
Mhm.
and she loved the song. And one day I thought, well, maybe she's going to love Lord of the Dance because she's a dancer and she loves Celtic music. And so I showed her Lord of the Dance, and that was it. That was it. That was it. Since then, we've watched it probably 200 times. Riverdance, making of Riverdance, how did Riverdance come? All this stuff, documentaries of the behind the scenes. And so that's when she started to pull out songs from Lord of the Dance and wanting to learn them on piano. And she'd already been going back to it, but she wanted to learn music from the game. So we contacted the game makers for music from them, and but she will sit there and will watch YouTube videos of people who've done their own interpretations of Lord of the Dance music. She'll want to see the piano versions, guitar versions, whatever's on there. She'll watch it, and she just started picking up parts of the music, and she'll go to the piano in the middle of playing LPS or painting or whatever, and she'll play, and she'll figure out a piece, and then she'll leave it, and then she'll come back the next day and she'll play more, or that night she'll play more. And so she bounces back and forth, but she's picking it up so quickly and almost effortlessly, and Tark will sit with her and figure out a bit, and she'll figure out a bit. And so it's not it's not separate from anything. It's all connected. And it's amazing because it's not separate, like, oh, I've got to go do piano practice now,
Mhm.
or I've got to go do this now. It's playing the game, playing Minecraft and jumping on the piano. And so it's all interwoven, and it's not slowing down, like she's dedicated to it, and she'll sit there at the piano, and she has the TV above her, and she'll find a YouTube video and she'll watch it, and she studies it, and she takes it all in, and then it's just incredible to watch. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I love that story. I know, that's beautiful. I love the way it's so interconnected with everything, because that's something we learn, right? All the different things are like silos of learning. You know, we read stories, we play music, you know, we write things. We're just so used to them being divided and separate. And when we watch our kids in action, we get to see how connected all these pieces really are. And I think that is in so much where our creativity lies too, right? In just seeing and making those connections intuitively between all the
Yeah.
different aspects, right? They're all just one.
Yeah, they really are.
Everything's one. But yeah, I know that sounds it's like such a platitude or something. But you know, when you
Yeah.
see it in action, you can just see them seamlessly running from one thing to the next to the next. And in their mind, there is a connection that they're following between them. Sometimes it's more obvious and sometimes it's not. But once you've seen it a few times, you trust, you know that it's there. And it'll
Yes.
just be fun someday to realize what that thread was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun because, you know, it's I think that again there's fear in not forcing, you know, you need to sit down and you need to do this lesson and you need to accomplish this before you go on to that.
Yeah.
Now when I'm watching her, she'll, you know, she learned how to sit at the piano proper in her hands, and she learned all that, but she plays standing up. Um, and every once in a while she'll be kneeling on the piano bench. But I still say to myself, well, is this okay? Is it okay that she's just standing? And then I remind myself, it's all good. You know, it's all good. It's not a problem. And these fears creep in every once in a while, you know, and I don't know if that's ever going to go away, but I think just trusting that whatever's happening for her, it's happening so quickly for her because it's when she wants it. And I think if she were in school, how would she be learning piano if she wouldn't be able to just jump up and play whenever she wanted, you
Mhm.
know, or play it with her LPSs, or, you know, or jump off of her computer and play it, or jump and swing on the swing in the living room and then come back and play it, you know, like it's just this flow through the day. And it's when she wants, you know, to explore it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's so amazing just to watch them in action, watch their focus, see where it just organically flows from one thing to the next to the next. I could watch
Yeah.
it for forever. So, what has been your biggest aha moment so far on your unschooling journey? What do you think?
Wow. There's so many. I think the most recent has been to just get out of the way,
Yeah.
and also to know that it's all about me and it's not about me at all. You know, like
Yes.
that's so hard because, you know, all the work, all the deschooling is mine.
Yep.
You know, you know, it's all mine, and it's all Tarek's, and it's all and for them it's just life, but for me it's chipping away, and being patient with myself while I chip away, and then just getting out of their way and getting out of their way of learning, not just what they're interested in, because I trust that part of unschooling so much because I experienced it for myself, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
I know it. I know that's how learning happens. I get it. I'm okay with that part. But it's the parenting, the stuff the residue that is from like generations past that I need to get rid of so that I can get out of their way, for them respecting that their journey is their journey, their path is their path, and just being like a guidepost, like a lantern holder, whatever, instead of being like chopping down the trees for them and saying, okay, this is where it's safe to go now, you know?
Yes, I love that.
Because I have a tendency to be like clearing out all the stuff. Where is it? Okay, it's safer here, you know, and that's not fair, because that's not life. That's not their, you know, that's my wanting for their life. And that's a tough one for me. It's like, it's okay. It's, you know, you can be there to support without actually conducting, like, da, 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 you know, like.
And you can be stepping beside them, helping them chop down the trees, or chopping down the trees that they would like to get rid of, without being out in front of them.
Yes, deciding which tree to chop down.
Not chopping out and clearing it without them, but walking together and doing it together. I love that image.
Maybe they just like to climb the tree and not even chop it down at all, you know? Like,
oh, I love that.
But they don't want to.
I know sometimes those walks take a long time, don't they? Because they want to look at the flowers and the little animals and climb the trees, and geez, we only went 3 feet in 20 minutes.
Yep. That's part of the fun though.
Yep, exactly. That was something I really found in my first year. In our first year, we would go to a nearby park, and just I would just let them be, as in, you know, we wouldn't have, oh, we're here for an hour and we need to go to the playground and spend some time. We need to, so getting rid of my agenda for what happened and then just watching them in action was a huge and useful piece for me, to be able to release my need to be a little bit out in front.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that is.
And there's so much pressure to be like that parent who structures and says, okay, now guys, we're packing up, we got to go to the next activity. And the next activity is where they're at. I remember we used to live next to the Humber Trail in Toronto, and we used to walk down there all the time. And there were a couple times where Lemon, you know, she was 2 or whatever, and she would just lay down on the trail where there's bikes and people walking, and she'd just lay down and look up at the clouds. And I remember standing there watching her thinking, this is perfect. This is where she wants to be. She's somewhere looking up clouds, birds, sun, whatever. And I could easily go over and be like, we got to go, you know, like we got something to do somewhere else. And, you know,
or if you're not going to walk, let's go.
yeah. We're walking here, you know, but that was another click. It's like, okay, well, if the only thing we do today is her coming out here, looking up at the clouds, we're okay. We're okay. The world is not going to end, you know?
Yeah, that's a big piece of it too, is dropping our expectations around that. And it's not about just ignoring all those thoughts, you know, saying, okay, you know, I'm supposed to let them do whatever they want, you know, because at first you think, well, these are what unschooling parents do, as you're trying to understand it. And I think often we can get stuck in just trying to follow those kinds of quote rules. I have to do that. And just thinking, okay, I'm supposed to be okay with that. And just kind of trying to stuff down any uncomfortableness. No, it's about actually processing through the feelings that we're having and coming, you know, so that we can understand why that's valuable for them, right? Because once you understand that, your understanding of unschooling and how it works grows. And I think that's the other big piece is, you know, saying yes and letting them do things. But the really important part is engaging with them through it,
Mm,
right? When you understand why this is valuable for them and why it's valuable to be in connection with them and be engaging with them and doing that yes with
yeah.
them rather than just standing back hands off and waiting, kind of for it to be done, right?
Yes, and I think that that's a big learn. I think that's something that comes up a lot for those of us starting out. It's a huge thing because we hear that all the time. Say yes more, say yes more,
Yeah.
and then you can easily go into that direction of saying yes more without doing the work of why.
Yeah.
and and sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, we can't do that right now for whatever reason, but why don't we figure out to do that next time, or whatever the case may be. But like this blanket statement yes without engaging is not any more helpful than
Yeah.
saying just blanket no. Yeah.
Because there really is context for every choice, right?
Yes. 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 Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. All right. I was hoping that you could share the story behind your choice to name your blog Follow the Joy, because, I love that. But I was hoping you could explain, what that phrase means to you and why you chose to use it.
Well, I remember, and this goes back to the last 6 years of processing loss and processing, grief, and
Mhm.
having all these really heavy shifts. And I remember thinking about, okay, well, what's the goal here? What's the goal of our family? What's the goal of unschooling? What's the point of it all? And I remember thinking about, okay, peaceful home, I want a peaceful home, okay, but happy home, yes, but happy is not always attainable. There are going to be not very peaceful moments, and so what can I look for? And I remember joy, just you know joy is spoken a lot of the unschooling world, and so this word just kept popping up and popping up, and I thought, well, that's the key. That's the key. And I remember just thinking of this word over and over again, and thinking, well, if that's my goal, um, how am I going to do that? And so it goes back to like shedding all this stuff that doesn't bring me closer to that.
Yeah.
I remember sitting on the floor with Lemon and Tarek and Ollie, and Ollie was probably, well, he was quite young at the time, and he was just sitting up. And we were building stuff with blocks and magnetiles and whatever. And he, as soon as Lemon would finish building something, he would just smash it down. And so I said to Lemon, is it okay? Is this okay? We're building, we can always build it again. And yeah, no problem. And then, the conversation came up, well, if we let him smash this down, he's never going to stop smashing stuff down. And so, we talked about that. It's like, well, it's okay to just let him enjoy smashing it down now. Like he's just experiencing something, and it's not a big deal, and Lemon's okay with it. So I was having dinner with a friend, and I was explaining the situation, and then I was like, the joy he was experiencing from just banging down these blocks and then crashing. He had so much joy. And my friend Lisa said he was following the joy. Follow the joy. And I was like, that's it. You follow the joy. That's the key. Follow it. And that's where it all began. And I thought, that's the name of the blog, because that's, it's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be peaceful. It's not always going to be perfect at all. We're going to make mistakes all the time. But we're going to follow the joy. So that's the star to follow.
I love that. Yeah. And I have that image of you with the lantern that you were talking about, just kind of looking out for that. It
Yeah.
it is something valuable to consider when you're making choices, right? When you're looking at the context, everything around you, fully considering um, which step in what direction will bring more joy, will bring us some joy, in wherever you are in that moment,
Yeah.
and to pick that next step. That's
Yeah.
really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today, Natasha. It was so fun to finally get to chat in real life. And before we go, where's the best place for people to connect with you online?
Well, my blog, Follow the Joy. I haven't written in a while, but I will be posting soon on Facebook. I also have a Facebook page, Follow the Joy, and Natasha Allan-Zaky on Facebook.
All
And
right.
yeah, that's probably the best.
The best way. All
Yeah.
right. I will definitely share links to all that stuff in the show notes. And thanks again so much. It was so much
Thank
fun.
you. Yay.